Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run might be one of Disney's most frustrating attractions, and in today's video we're going to deep dive into this ride experience to see how and why it falls short. Before we get started, please like this video, please leave a comment down below, let me know what you think of this attraction, if you agree with me, if you think that it is Disney's worst Star Wars ride, and of course please subscribe to this YouTube channel. At the time of this recording we are pushing for 20,000 subscribers, so I would greatly appreciate if you helped us reach that goal. One more thing, please click the link in the description and give my Instagram account a follow. I'd greatly appreciate that as well. Thank you so much. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is tucked away within the back of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It opened with the land in 2019 at Disneyland Park, and of course that is how I experienced it for the first time, and I walked away incredibly disappointed in 2019. I went in expecting a ride experience to rival Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom, which I got to ride for the first time the year before, but it is just nowhere near that level of ride quality at all. Of course, there are very different styles of simulators. They have very different goals, they tell very different stories, but I was hoping that the quality of the ride would be on the same plane as Flight of Passage, which is one of my favorite rides of all time, if you didn't know. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is just nowhere near Flight of Passage. So let's dig into why that is. Obviously, the icon in front of the ride is the Millennium Falcon. And I know it's an iconic ship. I know that it's really cool. I am a Star Wars fan, to be clear. I think it's cool as well. But from a theme park perspective, having the icon of the land be a ship is just a lot less visually impressive than a lot of the other icons of Disney parks out there. Like, for example, the floating mountains. They're a visual spectacle. They are so cool to look at. The Millennium Falcon is just a ship parked in front of, like, a building that's built into a mountain. Which, like, you know, it's fine. It's cool. It was cool the first time, but walking around Galaxy's Edge, it's just not... I don't know, it just doesn't have the spectacle that a lot of other Disney icons do. So, like, we haven't even set foot in the queue yet, and I already think that this attraction is a little underwhelming. The queue itself is actually pretty well done. When I ranked the queues at Disneyland, I did put this one on the list. During the park reopening after the pandemic shutdown, this attraction reopened with no lightning lane, and the line moves so fast, which is really frustrating because I feel like that is not the case at all today. I feel like in order to inflate demand for this attraction, they really give out so many lightning lanes, so the standby line can absolutely crawl. This attraction does offer a single rider line, but for a few reasons, I don't think that that is the best option either. I will discuss more of that later. The queue is going to take you inside through Hondo Onaka's repair shop after you see the backside of the Millennium Falcon, which again isn't really that impressive. The repair shop has this one ship that's being worked on. The queue wraps all the way up and around it. It's one long winding ramp. At a few points you're going to hear the voiceovers kick in, discussing what they're doing to the ship. Sometimes it'll fire up and it'll be really loud. You can hear it revving and you see it moving, and then the voices get all panicked. They're like, it's gonna blow, and then of course nothing happens. Throughout the entire queue you have these characters cutting in on the microphone, and they're just so annoying. Like, I don't find it amusing at all. Well, maybe I found it amusing the first time. It's certainly not amusing the more that you ride it. I think I've been on this ride way too much. I think when it first opened, I was just so excited to have a new ride at Disneyland Park that I just lapped it over and over again. And then eventually I got sick of it. And then eventually Rise of the Resistance opened. And then eventually I just grew more and more jaded on this ride experience that now I've reached the point where I'm like, I like Star Tours more. But I know a lot of people have liked Star Tours more since the beginning, so there's that. After that section of the queue, you're going to work your way back up near the Millennium Falcon. You're going to go along the back side of the Falcon again, but this time you have an aerial view of it, so you're looking down on the ship. Have these window shades so you can't look out and see the rest of the park, but if you like kneel down, you can look out and see like Big Thunder Mountain and Matterhorn, but you're not supposed to see that because you're in a galaxy far, far away. But after that section of the queue, you're going to hit your merge point, and this is where you reach the pre-show. The pre-show has one of Disney's best animatronics. Hondo Ohnaka looks so good. He looks amazing. His movements are very fluid. He's very expressive. He can like take steps. He's a very, very, very impressive animatronic figure. I've also ranked the pre-shows at Disneyland in case you are curious to see where this one ranks. Hondo explains that he needs flight crews. You see a graphic of the Millennium Falcon flying from out in front of the attraction to within the maintenance bay, so that's pretty cool. At one point, Chewbacca cuts in, and Hondo starts talking to Chewbacca about how he's going to keep the Falcon safe, and how he's going to help out the Resistance, and make a little money for himself as well. By far the biggest standout is that animatronic. Like, the story is fine. Galaxy's Edge was pitched as like this hyper immersive land, and the story of their big Millennium Falcon ride is that we're getting a whole bunch of recruits to fly the ship, but they're all gonna fly the ship at the same time. It's like you're in this massive crowd of people, you just waited in a huge line, and every single one of you is gonna fly the Millennium Falcon, even though it's a 6-person cockpit. So I think from the concept, like, I understand that Star Wars is a very popular franchise. I understand that the Millennium Falcon is iconic, and like flying the Millennium Falcon is an experience that a lot of Star Wars fans wanted to have. But in terms of hyper immersion, which is what Galaxy's Edge is supposed to do, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why do you need thousands of people to fly a 6-person ship? Like, it just doesn't work. After the pre-show, the ride splits in 2. If you know how this ride system works, you know that there's 4 different turntables. Each turntable has a cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. So if you go to the left, you're going to the 2 turntables on the left. You go to the right, you're going to the 2 turntables on the right. Whichever way you go, at the end, you'll meet with a grouper. The grouper is going to assign flight crews. So if you're a party of 5, they're going to unite you with a single rider to make you a party of 6. You're a party of 3, they're probably going to put you with another party of 3. A party of 2 is going with a party of 4, all of that jazz. They're going to give you a flight crew color, so it is your job to remember the color. And then you're going to walk off of the boarding bridge. By the way, the boarding bridge has like these air bubbles. Like, it was intentionally cheaply built, which is really funny. So when you're walking, you can like step on the air bubbles, which is like kind of amusing. After you are grouped together, you're going to step onto the Millennium Falcon itself, but you're not going to be alone. Like, there's like 4 or 5 different flight crews within the chess room with you. So it's like, why does this one ship have 4 flight crews on it right now? It doesn't make any sense from a storytelling perspective. Like, from operational perspective, obviously, but you look over next door at Rise of the Resistance, it does storytelling and immersion much better than this ride does. I think this is one of the most disappointing aspects of this attraction. It pitches itself as a hyper immersive experience, and if you take a second to realize what is happening, you realize that it just completely falls apart. Like, this is just another attraction like Star Tours. Being in the chess room is a cool experience, like the first or second time, and then I've just grown like weary of it. Like, I took a picture at the chess table, and now I'm just like, okay, waiting to get on this ride. One of the turntables will lead you towards the front of the chess room, where I think the cockpit is supposed to be on the actual Millennium Falcon, and the second one will take you around the back. Occasionally an alarm will go off in the chess room, and you have to like press a button to silence it. I guess that's kind of cool, but whatever. Also, like, the padding on the walls is like rock hard. It's like hard plastic, which myself and a bunch of other Star Wars fans just always assumed that it was soft padding. So I'm sure it's like because of wear and tear of guests touching it, which is why they went with the hard plastic design. But I don't know. I just think it's kind of sad. It doesn't feel like how it looks in the movies, and that kind of takes you out of the story a little bit, at least in my opinion. When they call your flight crew color, the cast member will remind you of what your jobs are, and then they'll send you down to the turntable. You're gonna stop and watch a little video from Hondo explaining what the mission is, which is the same every time, by the way. It's gonna change eventually, which I'm excited for. But when Galaxy's Edge was first announced, and when this ride was first announced, we were promised 3 different ride films. It opened with one. It's been years and years and years, and now they're like completely reworking the story of the attraction to include The Mandalorian, and apparently the Mandalorian version of this attraction is going to have multiple ride films, multiple missions, which might make this ride much better. We're gonna have to revisit it whenever that opens. So after that, you're gonna be led into your cockpit. The cast member is going to check your restraints, which is the yellow tab seatbelt that you can find on many other attractions like Matterhorn, Indiana Jones, Star Tours, Mission Breakout, etc. This is where you're really going to notice that this is a pretty intimate ride experience. Like, it's just you and the 5 other people in this cockpit. So, which is why I don't like being a single rider. Because if you are a single rider and you're put with a party of 5, it really feels like you're invading on, like, a family's, like, vacation memory. It's, like, pretty uncomfortable, in my opinion. I'm not the most social person, so that's kind of part of it, but I don't know. It's much less awkward as a single rider if you're put into a cockpit with 2 different parties, like a party of 3, a party of 2, and yourself. Like, you know that not everyone in the cockpit knows each other. So the pilots will be sitting in the front row, the gunners will be in row 2, and the engineers will be in row 3. The pilots obviously are in charge of flying the ship, the gunners are obviously in charge of shooting the guns, the engineers fix something when something goes wrong. So it's just button mashing. I mean, gunners are pretty much button mashing. Really, the only real job are pilots. So the pilot on the left moves the ship left and right. The pilot on the right will move it up and down. It's kind of like having one person hold one side of the steering wheel and the other person having the other side of the steering wheel. So you have to communicate really well with the other pilot if you want to have success on this ride, which 9 times out of 10 is not the case. Usually the experience you're going to have, I feel like, is you're going to be either gunner or engineer, and someone either in your party or not in your party who isn't very good at it is going to be crashing your ship over and over again. Which, if you're like me, I don't really care. I know a lot of people find that frustrating. It's fine, you know, whatever. At the very least, if you have a bad pilot, it gives the engineers something to do, because if you have a good pilot, the engineers are just kind of sitting watching the screen the whole time. So after the cast member checks your restraint, the ride vehicle is going to show an animation of like a real turntable, which is like very similar to the real life motion that your ride vehicle is actually experiencing. And then it's going to start simulating your flight as you're going up out of Hondo's workshop. If the left pilot moves while the ship is moving out of Hondo's base, you're going to hit it, and that'll be your first crash. So really the left pilot just doesn't have to do anything until you're completely clear of the building. But there's still a couple opportunities to crash in this first sequence as you're flying out of Batuu. If you notice the ship, the right pilot has to go under it. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do that, and you're going to crash into it. Honestly, this sequence right here kind of encapsulates a lot of my issues with the ride. It's kind of like an arcade gameplay. It also doesn't feel like you're flying the Millennium Falcon. It feels like you're flying the cockpit, because there's like no sense of like there's an entire ship attached to you. It feels like you're just a cockpit, because that's what you are. The Imagineers didn't really consider the fact that there's a whole chunk of the ship. Like, you are on the right wing of the Millennium Falcon. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like you are just flying the cockpit, because that's what is happening. So again, hyper immersion completely out of the door with this ride. The graphics and gameplay feel like a lot like an arcade game. It's just meh, you know, it's not very impressive, which I feel like is one of the most disappointing factors about this ride, especially when I first rode it in 2019. I was hoping for graphics like Flight of Passage, which in hindsight I really shouldn't have, but that's where my expectations were. So when I rode the ride and I found this, I was immensely disappointed, to say the least. So for whatever reason, Hondo gives you permission to shoot down at Batuu, which is kind of amusing. It's like, why are we shooting right now? The reality is just to get familiar with the gameplay mechanic. And then you're gonna fly into space. The right pilot is given the opportunity to jump into lightspeed, which is like a total nerd moment. For Star Wars fans, it's really cool to jump into lightspeed by pulling the lever. But like very similar to like Mission Space, if you don't pull the lever on time, that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna jump into lightspeed anyway. So like, are you really doing anything? And the answer is no, you're not. But it's not really like that they could design a ride where if you don't do your job, nothing happens. Like, that would be so disappointing. for people who don't understand what is happening. That's just forever gonna be a flaw of a type of ride that this is, where you fly your own spacecraft. So you're gonna reach Corellia, which is where this mission is taking place. You're supposed to steal like space oil from the First Order. When you first come out of Lightspeed, you'll see a few TIE fighters, so the gunners can shoot at the TIE fighters. The gunner has the option when they first sit down in the ride vehicle to have either automatic aiming on or manual aiming. Manual is obviously much harder. You have 3 buttons, one shoots up, one shoots straight, one shoots down. Automatic just takes care of that for you, so you can just spam the button. I don't really have a preference. I don't really care. I don't think it's that deep. Either way, it's not the most fun. Obviously, if you have automatic aiming and you're just spamming the buttons, you're gonna have a much higher score than if you have the manual one. But either way, the Millennium Falcon is going to dive down into this tunnel. Like, it's very clear that the ride vehicle has an envelope that it's following. So the pilots can go left and right, up and down within the envelope. And that's never more clear than when you're within these tunnels. Like, it's obviously you can't go that far. But, like, even when you hit something, like, the screen just fills with sparks and the Falcon just adjusts itself. You saw how big that ship was outside, and now you're just like, if this was real at all, if this had any sense of realism, the rest of the ship would be gone. Like, come on. You're only flying the cockpit, which really, really bothers me. It's so stupid. So anyway, you're gonna reach this point where Hondo's telling you to hit the brakes. Whether you hit them or not, the ride vehicle is gonna stop, and then there's nothing you can do. This animation plays every single time. If you stop, you're gonna hit the coaxium crate, which is the space oil that I was talking about. Because the gunner's already attached wires to it, it's gonna pull the entire ship down, which is crazy. You see this animation every single time. You're gonna land at the bottom, and then the coaxium is gonna break out in front of you, and Hondo is gonna grab it for us. That's when we power up the ship, and then we continue our mission. So the animated sequence that you see every time ends here. You're gonna go right back into one of those tunnels. The gunners are gonna start chasing after another train. It is on the pilots to get behind the train. If they don't get behind the train on time, you're not gonna get your coaxium. So that's obviously a big missed opportunity if it doesn't happen. This is a major part of the gaming element. You have to give the gunners enough time to shoot the coaxium free. And then you're gonna race through this like industrial valley, which again makes it very clear that you have only an envelope to fly in. Hondo expresses his disappointment with the gunship that the First Order has brought. There's this really cinematic moment where Hondo asks the gunners to fire the missiles, and then like the music pitches and everything.
Fire the missiles at the train!
It's a very dramatic moment, and then it's on the pilots to fly through the rubble of the missiles and the falling debris. This is like another one of the most arcadey moments in the entire attraction. Like, if the pilots fly directly into an object, the screen is just gonna fill with sparks, and then the ship is gonna teleport to the side. So it's just amusing. Very, very, very arcadey in my opinion, and very, very, very disappointing. But anyway, after you're through the wreckage, the Falcon is gonna pull up into the sky. Hondo says, "Let's get out of here," and the right pilot has another opportunity to jump into Lightspeed. After Lightspeed breaks out, you're gonna pass some asteroids. This used to be like a buffer scene. Like, if loading would take a little while, you would get to experience an extra scene for a while where you're just racing through asteroids, and then of course the First Order appears, and then Hondo's like, you have to get rid of the First Order. They can't know where the resistance is. So whether you do it or not, eventually a rogue asteroid would come in and hit the Falcon and knock you down to Batuu, which is like very excessive. But over the last few years of me riding this ride, I haven't seen it for a while, so I don't know if they've gotten better at loading this ride within a timely manner, or if they just cut it completely. I don't know. But when you arrive back in Batuu, the pilots have no more responsibilities. Chewie is gonna pilot us remotely back to Hondo's base. I feel like they redid this sequence. When you first like arrive, you're always gonna hit this rock, which is like so annoying. I feel like there's nothing you can do to avoid it. Like, I've been the left pilot before, and I've held it at the left angle to get away from the rock, but every time you hit it. So just annoying, honestly. I can't remember if they reanimated it or if they like made it more forceful, but I feel like it's different now from when the ride first opened, if my memory serves me correctly. But when you land back in Hondo's workshop, the turntable is gonna turn one last time. They have a couple more stall scenes, so like Hondo will talk about how the damage that you created to the Falcon, how much there is, and then if they're taking long enough, he'll start talking about how there's like a creature loose, and then if the ride vehicle turns in time, he'll just cut off no matter what he's saying. He'll stop talking, he'll be like, get out, which is like kind of, I don't know, it's not great. It's kind of, I don't know, it feels sub Disney in my opinion. That's not great storytelling. But like, that's just kind of the nature of this ride. Like, I feel like it's just a very complicated idea to make a reality. I understand that this is the best that they probably could have done, but it still falls short, in my opinion. I'm excited to see the updates, but I don't know what to expect, honestly. Because there's 4 turntables to this ride experience, the exit is really winding. Like, depending upon which turntable you experience the attraction on, you might have a really long walk to the exit, which is kind of bizarre. It's almost like a maze with how winding it is. Like, I've seen people get lost and confused in there multiple times. But, I mean, it is pretty well labeled, so just follow the signs and you'll be fine. And that is your experience on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. One thing that I want to mention before we wrap things up is, on top of the 4 turntables, there's 2 extra cockpits. I believe they are for wheelchair loading, but they've actually put me and my party in those cockpits a couple of times, and instead of rotating into position on the turntable, these cockpits move forward into the simulator dome, which is pretty interesting. There's one for each side, because after the pre-show you split up into 2 different sides, so there's 2 of them, and I've experienced it twice. It's pretty unique, pretty interesting, but nothing terribly impressive. So that is my opinion on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I would love to hear down below in the comments. Please like this video, and of course, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you later.